Hey everyone, and welcome to America Current Affairs, the channel that breaks down the big stories. Today we're actually hopping across the pond to the UK for a really important topic.
So what are we getting into? We are diving deep into a landmark report out of the UK that tracks a whole 10-year fight against some really serious crimes. We're talking about domestic abuse and sexual violence. The UK's top prosecutors put out this huge report detailing their progress. So the big question is, did they actually succeed in turning the tide? Let's get into it.
And just so you know, everything we're talking about today comes from one single incredible source, the 10th Annual Report on Violence Against Women and Girls, or VAWG for short. This is straight from the UK's Crown Prosecution Service. So we're looking at official data and real stories, right from the heart of the justice system.
And that right there brings up a huge question, doesn't it? I mean, it's one thing to say that things have changed, but how do you actually measure a decade of justice? How do you track progress on issues that are this complex and this important? Well, that's exactly what this report tries to answer.
All right, so first up, before we go any further, let's break down that key term, VAW.
So VAW stands for Violence Against Women and Girls. It's really an umbrella term for crimes like domestic abuse, rape, and stalking. All of them are connected by a pattern of power and control. But here's a really crucial point the report makes. While the term highlights that women and girls are the primary victims, the data we're about to see covers all victims, and that includes men and boys too.
Okay, so now that we know what we're talking about, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. What really happened over those 10 years?
Whoa, just look at this! This is a pretty dramatic shift. Back in 2007, these kinds of cases were just over 7% of a prosecutor's workload. 10 years later, that number exploded to nearly 20%. Think about that. That means almost 1 in every 5 cases handled by prosecutors was a VAWG case. It shows a huge shift in the justice system's priorities.
But taking on more cases is one thing. Were they actually winning them? Oh yeah. The number of successful convictions shot up by a staggering 63% in that same decade. That is a massive leap in getting justice for victims.
Let's break that down a little. In domestic abuse cases alone, which is the largest category, convictions jumped from around 44,000 to nearly 71,000. This shows a real, tangible increase in the system's effectiveness in these incredibly difficult cases.
And it's a pretty similar story for sexual offenses, and that includes rape. Convictions rose from about 8,000 to over 13,000. The numbers, they really tell a clear story of increased focus and a much greater number of successful outcomes over 10 years. So those numbers are powerful, but what do they look like in real life? Let's zoom in on domestic abuse cases to see how these changes actually worked in the courtroom. And believe me, there's a good reason we're focusing here. Domestic abuse is by far the biggest piece of the puzzle, making up over 80% of all VAWG cases. So that means any progress in this one area has a huge overall impact. To understand how, let's look at a real case, and it starts with this chilling confession taken directly from the report. "I stabbed her."
That confession was actually captured on a police officer's body cam. In this case, a man had stabbed his wife, but she and the family refused to give a statement. Now in the past, that might have just been the end of the case. But with the body cam footage of his confession, prosecutors could build their case entirely on that evidence. They won a conviction and a 9.5-year sentence without the victim ever having to testify. It's a perfect example of how technology created a new path to justice.
And that brings us right to our next point. Because just as technology was helping prosecutors, it was also creating brand new challenges as crime started moving online.
The justice system had to adapt, and it had to do it fast. This timeline here shows the response. In 2015, a new law targeted controlling or coercive behavior. Things like isolating someone from their friends, monitoring their online activity, or controlling their finances. By 2016, prosecutors had new social media guidelines. And the impact? It was immediate. In just 1 year, prosecutions for so-called revenge porn more than doubled.
And the numbers show the real-world consequences. In the final year of the report alone, prosecutors brought 465 cases for sharing private images, and another 309 for that new controlling behavior offense. I mean, these were entirely new battlegrounds for justice. Okay, let's pull all of this together. After digging through a decade of data, what are the big takeaways? What have we really learned? So here's the rundown. First, the justice system made these crimes a much higher priority, with VAWG cases tripling as a share of their workload. Second, they got way better at winning them, with that 63% jump in convictions. Third, new tech like body cams provided powerful evidence, especially when victims couldn't testify. And finally, the law itself adapted to fight new digital crimes like online control and revenge porn.
This report shows us a system working really hard to adapt during the decade leading up to 2017. And that leaves us with a critical question for today, right? As technology and society continue to change at lightning speed, can the justice system, whether in the UK or here in the US, still keep up?
It's a big question to think about. That's all for this explainer. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to America Current Affairs for our next breakdown.